All right, let's set up your Dungeon Delve mod. First thing we're going to do is open up the back box and set up the power cord. Opening the back box here, you're going to plug in the supplied power cord. It's got a gray and a black end. The gray end goes on the bottom. You're going to plug it in the center of the power distribution board. It keys in, so it only goes in one way. Here's a close-up view of the power cord. So we plugged in right here in the middle, and you can see the gray is on the bottom, and we just ran the cable down this big hole right here. We're gonna lift the playfield up, so don't forget to take the balls out. Okay, now with the playfield up, go ahead and pull the power cable through. If you also have my Mimic mod, you may already have this cable fished through, and that's why it comes with two power cords. So one goes to a Mimic mod if you have installed, otherwise you'll just have a spare. So this is your power cord for the Dungeon Delve mod. Okay, now let's go ahead and start some disassembly of the existing plugs so that we can start installing the mod. So with your playfield up, we're gonna look up at the top right side here. So we're gonna zoom in. Okay, and there's two plugs here that you need to undo. So locate this hole. You're gonna be using this for both the putting in the new mod and taking out a couple of plugs. You have two plugs here to undo. One is for your spot lamp, so go ahead and unplug that one. And then the second one is for the flasher that you have right here. Go ahead and unplug both. Fish those cables through on the top side. You can do that after the next step here where we disassemble a little bit of the top. Okay, so let's go ahead and install the main electronics package. The main package is this one box. You're gonna install this underneath the playfield, actually right up next to where the mod is. If we look closely at it here, you can actually see it's got some holes here for zip ties. I've gone ahead and rigged up a little harness. You're free to do it how you want. I'll include zip ties with the mod. What you're gonna do is actually install it right up here. There's actually a zip tie harness specifically here from Stern. So just put a loop on and attach it up here. Okay, so I've zip tied mine to this little white harness holder right there, as mentioned. So this is the only scary part. This is where you're plugging things in. So on our electronics, there's just a couple of plugs. You have the power plug on the bottom, so that's hard to miss. And then coming out the top, we have a couple of cables, and these will be a little nicer on the ones you're receiving. We have one for our opto flasher, and then these two are little JST connectors. You'll see what we do those in a second. So first thing though, let's plug in the opto flasher. So you can see it's a two-prong plug. It's gonna plug in right up here. So there's two plugs. One is labeled spot lamp, the other one's your flasher. Okay, with that plugged in, you can go ahead and do the power cable to this as well. Or if you wanna wait and plug the power cable in last, that's fine too. It's easy to do while the playfield is down. Okay, now at this point, I actually find it easier to lower the playfield back down and let the skis rest on the front so your playfield's only partially lifted up. On yours, you're gonna have the stock flasher and spotlight installed right here. They come out with just the standard nuts and screws, and it should look something like this. Go ahead and uninstall both, and then go ahead and remove both items. After that, go ahead and take off the nuts that are right here. There's 3 of them, but I suggest actually taking off all 4. And so we can do that. Once you do that, you can actually lift up the plastic here, and that's gonna make installation a little bit easier on the wiring. Okay, so let's get the hard part out of the way, and that's getting the cables down through the playfield through this one little hole. Okay, so you've already removed the spotlight and the flasher. We actually have a base piece to install and the main sculpt. So the main sculpt is a much larger piece right here. And so this has a screen already pre-installed, and it also has a couple of cables installed as well. One other part I want to show you in detail though, is there's a cable channel right here that you can feed additional cables through so that they come out in this little section right here. We're going to do that for the 2 other cables that we need to feed, which is the ball sensor, which is right here, and then our LED strip, which is right here. Each one has its own little plug. These are the JST connectors that we talked about earlier. So you need to feed those through the insert channel as we install this. How does it install, right? It actually just installs right here on these screws. So you can simply line it up and set it down. And then what you can do is use the same nuts that you have right here that you've uninstalled to tighten it down. Now, what I'm going to do is, rather than install this part first, I'm going to install the 2 cables coming from our main sculpt. I'm going to go ahead and fish them down through here. You can actually pull up the plastic to help do this, or just kind of wiggle them through. I find a pair of tweezers or something like that helpful. Try not to bend or crimp cables, obviously. So let's give it a shot. The first cable I'm going to send through is the thinnest one. This is actually your video cable that is paper thin. What we want to do though is make sure that if you lift this up, there are actually 2 bars that you need to get through. The one right here and the one right there. You want the wires to go between these 2, otherwise your ball could hit it either on the in lane or as it goes through the double scoring option. So feeding them through should be pretty simple. You just kind of tuck it in and feed down. Yeah, looking closer here, you can see I'm just feeding it through. There's plenty of length in this and the USB cable that are coming from the main sculpt. So I suggest go ahead and doing these first. There's even a notch right here in the plastic you can see, which was meant for the stock wires to go through. And so just, again, feed one plug at a time through it. Take your time and don't rush. Don't try to jam it through. Okay, so I've fed the USB and the display cable down through the hole now. I'm gonna go ahead and add the base mount and run the 2 other cables through, and then we'll flip to the bottom side. So let's get started. Okay, so with the plastic base just kind of set down but not actually secured in, I'm going to go ahead and feed the wires through. So as you look here, I'm just kind of feeding one in. Let's see if we can zoom in here. I'm just going to feed one in through here and then feed it out through the bottom point here. Okay, so I fed the one piece through here. I'm going to feed the second one through, and then we're going to adjust and go ahead and fish them down through the hole. Okay. Both wires are fed through now, so they are safe and away from where this clips on. This would be a good point to go ahead and secure down the base with the 3 screws that you can put in here. You can also probably get away with 2 if you don't want to mess with the third one there. So just do the one here on the end and then the one towards the front. Okay, so I fed the cables down with a little bit of spare length right here, but I'm going to go ahead and install this down on top. The cables are going to bulge for a second, but we'll tighten it up from the bottom. So line it up from the front, just kind of line it up across the back here, take a look from the side, and then gently but firmly press down. Make sure that those corners pop in as they need to. The base does have a little bit of a flex, so you can kind of push down without really worrying about it popping or break anything. What you want to do is make sure that it is firm on the corners and that you see that there's not like an edge sticking up on the sides here. Okay, so just looking at the side, once we've installed it here, you should see essentially no real gap right there between the base piece that's clear and then the actual sculpt. From the cabling, just make sure everything's within the wire frame there. So as long as it's behind that ball path right there, you're good. If you have trouble, if your particular game, the wire frame is pressing against the back here, just loosen the screw, move it over a little bit while you install it, and then firm it up again. Each game may have a couple millimeters of difference in tolerance, so you may need to change that. Okay, so let's wrap up the cabling here. So we got the game kind of halfway up so that we can reach in and out. Grab the long display cable and pull it out so that you can focus on it. I want you to see here, there's actually 2 sides to it. There is the white side, that's kind of like the uncovered side, and then on this side is a blue kind of tape that covers the piece. We're going to do 2 things here. We're going to add on the actual HDMI plug that you'll receive in your mod. It's actually kind of simple. It's like a laptop style connector here. So if you look at the plug, it's got a little black piece that flips up and down very easily. It doesn't need a lot of force to move it. What you do is flip that up, take the cable, and make sure that the blue part is facing like this. So you want the white part facing down, line it up and put it in there gently and just flip the black piece down. Now it's secured. If you don't get video when the mod turns on, double check this plug, make sure that you got it in there right. It might be backwards or maybe you didn't get a good connection there. All right, that part's done. One other piece we're going to do is the adapter for the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi needs a micro HD if I don't drop it here. So HDMI plug, plug it in firmly, There you go. That end is going to go into the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so looking in here from the side, you can do this from the front, it just doesn't film very well, but you have a couple of plugs that we need to plug in. These are the JST connectors. One is for your lights, and then one is for that ball sensor. They're going to be marked, so expect on yours to see like a black mark on the ball sensor one so that you can figure out which is which. The same marking will appear on the cable that you plug into on your wiring. I just put a piece of tape on mine for my home game here. So for the lighting, it plugs into the lighting plug. They only go one way. Look for these notches right here. Plug it in, done. And then grab the other cable, fish it up, and plug it in. Same thing, done. Okay, so we have a couple more cables to plug in and then we're ready to power up. Look inside the goodie bag that I give you and you're gonna find a little USB adapter here. We're gonna use this with the Raspberry Pi to power the screen. All right, so you take it out, you have a USB-C plug coming down from the Sculpt. Go ahead and plug it in to the adapter. And then on your Raspberry Pi that's here, again, look for a marking. It's gonna be, let's see if we can get a good shot of this. It's gonna be that left plug of the two, okay? You'll know that you got the right one because the other plug will not work. So just plug that in. And then lastly, our display cable. So grab your display cable with the HDMI, plug that in, and the mini HDMI port that is on the far left. Okay, I got camera shy there and quick cut, but essentially there's your display plugged in and the USB. There's an empty USB on the side that's not used. Okay, so that's the last thing before we plug the cables in. So go ahead and tuck any spare cable in if you want. You know, put some bread ties or something to clean up the cabling there. Okay, so looking in from the bottom here, mine's a little loose, tighten, you know, tie yours closer up. Last thing is plug in the power cord right here. So a little quick snap, should plug in. Go ahead and take a look up top. You should see your screen turn on. Yep, we'll see a little quick boot up sequence here. And then it should flip to the idle screen in just a minute. All right, there you go. So, portal screen's up. If you need to, you can adjust the mounting in the back for the screen to move it over a millimeter or two or something like that for alignment. You can see the LEDs are going. You have an idle sequence, and every time the flasher that was right here would go off, you get the flash sequence there. Okay, to get a proper filming of testing the ball sensor that's going to be right underneath here, I'm going to roll a ball under. I've turned the main power switch off on the coin door. I'm tired of the flasher going off with the attract sequence. So you can see the idle sequence here, the runes kind of lighting up spontaneously. I got a ball here. We just roll it under. We should see a chase sequence. There you go, and the animation fires. There you go. So that means your ball sensor is calibrated. Ah, but the minis I hear you say. Yes, we need to install the minis. So, in your package for the mod, you're going to get two things. One, you'll get a package of your goblins and hero minis so that you can set them up how you choose. You're also going to receive a package that has some stickers and some other stuff in it, and it will also have a bit of super glue right there. So, what you should do is take a look at the placement of where you want to put your minis and test out where you'd like them. And, you know, first line up where you'd like to put them. I suggest put your goblins here in the back by the portal, and then place your hero on the kind of like the dais or the little pedestal right there. It's up to you how you want to put them. Put a dab of glue underneath each one, set it down, and let it set, you know, at least for an hour before you play, or better yet, let it sit overnight once you're ready to secure them in place. If you want to put your own minis on, feel free. Definitely send me some photos of what yours looks like. Okay, we did it. We're done. Thank you for purchasing the Dungeon Delve. If you have any problems or issues, please reach out to me at support@ComingToYouMods. Thanks again.